Welcome back to Africa Science Focus, the science and development show from SciDevNet and Ogechi Ekianyo. According to the UNESCO Institute for Statistics, women account for only 30% of science professionals globally. Similarly, in Africa, women also account for about the same percentage of science professionals. This underrepresentation of women in science is not just a matter of equality, it also affects the quality and relevance of scientific research. As UNESCO puts it, the gender gap hinders diversity of ideas, perspectives, and solutions necessary for impactful innovation and advancement. That's why in this episode, we spotlight two African women and the work they do to make a difference in science through their innovative projects. First is Martha Alade, a former lecturer of computer science and the founder of Women in Technology in Nigeria. She recently won the Outreach category of the 2024 Nature Awards for Inspiring Women in Science. Our reporter, Jayne Augoye, speaks to Martha about her science and technology journey.
So my early interest in STEM began in my high school days. I was deeply curious and passionate about connecting abstract scientific principles taught in class to real-life scenarios. I derived immense satisfaction in applying knowledge gained in my chemistry, physics, biology, and maths classes to solving problems around me and in my community. So I would always take my classes a step further beyond the classroom. For example, I would apply the principles of Pythagoras' theorem in maths to get the shortest route to walk into school. I remember also vividly in one of my biology classes, my biology teacher was attempting to teach the skeletal system, and he was using drawings to teach the subject, and he was emphasizing on the importance of two bones, the atlas and the axis in the vertebral column. So in my mind, I was like, why couldn't we use real bones? Why couldn't we use real bones for this class? So on my own, I went through the textbooks, the workbooks, and realized that I could actually get real bones. So I sourced for a dead rat, sterilized it, extracted the bones, and, identified those drawings he has been drawing in class. I identified the atlas and the axis, which are two key bones in the vertebral column. And I brought them to class, and everyone was really, really inspired. So this experience really changed my life. This is just one of my experiences in high school days. So this hands-on approach not only deepened my understanding of the STEM subjects, but also ignited a lifelong passion for innovation and problem solving. And so that's how my interest in STEM really evolved.
What challenges, did you encounter that has led you to this point?
So upon graduation, I think about the year 2000, when I graduated from the university with a BSc in computer engineering, I had to sit down and began to reflect on my educational journey from my high school. And I observed that most of my friends who were initially passionate about STEM had to drop because of difficulties they faced in maths and physics especially. And it made me really sad because these are, young women I had bonded with that we could have been together in the journey of STEM. So still reflecting, in retrospect, I began to look at my university as well. And I realized that we had fewer women in the STEM field compared to guys. So, yes, and also I looked at my environment and I realized that most of the developers, most of the people in STEM were guys. You go to cyber cafe, then internet just came into Nigeria. When you go to the cyber cafes in the year 2000, 2001, maybe out of 10 people who are using the internet, only one will be a female, sometimes only guys. And so so in my environment, my community, everything, I just saw that underrepresentation of women in the STEM ecosystem. So those were the gaps I saw that, made me decided to address this issue by starting Witin.
Okay, how long have you been running Witin?
So Witin actually started in 2002, but was registered with the CAC in 2009.
Fantastic. So what gaps in STEM education or opportunities, for girls motivated this initiative?
So for girls, I realized also that the stereotype is real. And I experienced it in high school when I said when I voiced it out that I wanted to study computer engineering. I didn't get encouragement from the society. Everyone was like, no, engineering is for guys, And I also saw that even in the 2000s, the year 2001 and, upwards, I still see that, societal stereotypes for girls, lack of resources for girls, especially those in underserved communities. So that underrepresentation also in this society, those challenges inspired me also to try to make an impact.
Martha founded Women in Technology in Nigeria, a science, technology, engineering, and math club for girls in low-resource communities, providing them with hands-on training, mentorship, and resources. The initiative encourages them to pursue STEM careers and aspire for leadership roles in these fields. Martha spoke to Jayne about how she gets parents and communities to buy into the initiative of empowering their girls in STEM.
Okay, so for those in underserved communities, we know that a lot of these communities are resource poor. And a lot of the parents of these girls in these communities are not informed. So what we do is we work very closely with the community heads and then with the local education districts. We ensure that we have open communications with them, build trust and credibility. And of course, Witin is a very strong brand. And by the time they see what we have done in the past, they see our success stories, the impact we have in girls. It's very easy for them to accept us. In fact, we've not been to any community where we didn't succeed in, making them buy our ideas. And also, what gives us edge in reaching these communities is our teachers.ng network. We've built a very strong network of, several teachers across the 36 states of Nigeria and the FCT, such that it's very easy for us through the teachers to penetrate schools and parents. These teachers, they've had relationship with the parents, they've had relationship with the communities. So when we train these teachers, we equip them as role models. It's very easy for these teachers, to reach the parents of these students. And, it just flows like that. And we usually always have our way into any local community we want to reach.
STEM is usually perceived as a complex subject or area of study. So what innovative approaches have you adopted to simplify STEM topics?
Okay, so that's the pedagogy. So like I said, one approach we have employed is ensuring that we reach out to teachers, especially in these underserved communities, and we train teachers. We get, qualified resource persons with the ministries of education. We train these teachers. And in training teachers, the teachers are the first point of call. The teachers are the first sort of people that will pass on this knowledge to these students. So that's one innovative approach. Another one we employ is that we try to ensure that these students can relate what they are being taught in class to their environment via culturally responsive pedagogies. So enabling this or equipping these students with hands-on training, it demystifies STEM. For example, there are some communities that are so retrogressive in terms of resources, in terms of anything STEM. Some of these communities do not have power. So in such cases, we use simple recycled materials to teach STEM. We could use e-waste. We could use very available resources to them to teach those subjects. Yes, so those are some of the approaches we have used to breach this digital divide in underserved communities.
What about the challenges, some of the challenges, you have faced in running the company, and how have you been able to, overcome some of them?
Okay, so I think the first major hurdle is, lack of insufficient funding. That's a big one for us. So what we do over the years is we just try to maximize the funds we have, the resources we have, and rely on volunteers, and also leverage on partnerships. So when we partner, of course we get some sponsorships, but our partnerships have really gone a long way for us. So when we partner with schools, we get venues for trainings, we get some free, we get some resources free. So partnerships have really gone a long way. And also, I think that's the major hurdle. Sometimes some of the communities initially may want to, find it a bit difficult to adapt or to accept our initiatives. But with time, we always cross those orders.
How about success stories?
Yes, we have plenty of success stories. I think in the year 2013, one of our teams won the Technovation Challenge globally. They built a mobile app for traffic offenders in Nigeria. In the early days when Witin started as well, we groomed young people in Eastern Nigeria. Young girls, they've never even seen a computer before, touched a computer, but we groomed them, and they represented the state in a national competition and emerged with flying colors. So the success stories are so numerous that those are just the few I could lay my hands on now.
Fantastic. On a final note, I would like to know, do you have any plans to expand Witin? Do you have any plans to scale up and enhance reach?
Yes, in fact, we have very solid plans to expand. We just won the Inspiring Women in Science Award by Nature in the outreach category, and it comes with a grant. And that is a strong inspiration for us, because with that grant, we are going to have STEM competitions and exhibitions, and we are expanding to several states and several regions in the country, and we are going to reach thousands of girls, and we are certain that the ripple effect, it will ripple to millions of girls in the country. So it's a big one for us, and that's what we are running with now. The whole of 2025 for Witin Girls STEM Clubs and Outreaches. The IWIS, the grant is going to help us expand across Nigeria.
Jayne also spoke to Gwen Jones from Zambia, who co-founded Nzatu Food Group, an initiative tackling food insecurity in Sub-Saharan Africa.
I'm originally from Zambia in Sub-Saharan Africa. My sister and I co-founded Inzatu. We come from a rural southern Zambian village called Mala. Inzatu was founded to address climate change. We did this primarily through uplifting smallholder farmer livelihoods. As you know, this is important as farmers are critical actors in agroecological transformation and important stewards of biodiversity. We called the company Nzatu, which means ours in our local language. We wanted to connect to farmers, that this wasn't just about us as a company. It was theirs. And ours is that connection where the consumers are connected to the farmers directly. So Nzatu is ours, and it's also ours to the consumers. So it's a very direct link from producer to consumer. And that's what Inzatu coffee means.
How has the journey been, from the conceptualization stage to, getting the ball rolling? How has it been?
Well, when we co-founded Inzatu, we really started on a very micro level, supporting our rural communities where we actually come from. We started this with our own relatives as we witnessed firsthand growing up the challenges as well as the opportunities that smallholder farmers faced. As we grew up and as in adulthood, we felt compelled to help. And that's how we started Inzatu.
Any major challenges, while trying to set this up?
Yes. At the key of our intervention was incomes. We started addressing rural livelihoods by bringing diversification. We realized that by encouraging farmers to start beekeeping activities, they were able to earn $3 a kg on honey versus 20 US cents per kg approximately on maize. And furthermore, with beekeeping, they were able to realize 2 harvests a year compared to 1 harvest with maize. And since the maize is rain-fed, in some cases, they would have no income at all in a year of drought. So this is where a huge opportunity was, where we could showcase to farmers that they didn't have to face those challenges. By becoming part of our program, they would be able to diversify their incomes and be able to address economic shocks in their livelihood program.
Nzatu Food Groups help small-scale farmers overcome the impact of climate change and works to empower farmers with environmentally friendly farming techniques. Gwen tells us how this happens.
Historically, maize was not indigenous to Africa. It was a commercial crop that was brought in through mechanization and markets. It all started with markets. Maize was grown for export markets. And what we do with the ancient grains is reversing that and bringing back the ancient grains, which is traditionally the indigenous grains of Africa. Africa has 26 ancient grains that are lost, that current generation of farmers, a lot of them don't even realize that we have lost our ancient grains. Interestingly, these ancient grains are more conducive to agriculture in Africa because they are drought-resistant.
Oh, really?
Yes, they are drought-resistant. And also, they're a form of green fertilizer. So you don't need high chemical inputs because it's self-sustaining. And then, most importantly, highly nutritious. So it's a win-win for our farmers. If we can reverse that trend, we will not only fight climate change, but we will also help to fight malnutrition. And well, now it's a double burden of malnutrition and obesity. So this it is such a magic potion for us as smallholder farmers in Africa, is growing ancient grain. And this can be applied to all cash crops. Right now, we're doing this in our coffee production, where we are active in coffee production, in tea production. Our primary product is coffee. And this is where we have the platform that we can interact with coffee farmers by introducing regenerative agriculture using ancient grains. So it doesn't matter which space that you are producing in. It's about integrating with ancient grains so that we can change diets in Africa, but also improve soil health in whatever space we are active.
Can you give me examples of some of these ancient grains you're referring to?
Yes, we focus on sorghum and millet.
Okay.
But in some of our programs, we've worked with cowpeas, and there's also fonio and teff. But as we said, our focus is millet and sorghum because that is the market that we have created for them.
Okay.
So we don't want farmers to just grow it just for the sake of growing, because that's not sustainable. We have to provide secured market value chains, and those are the two crops that we are focusing at the moment.
To promote eco-friendly farming, Gwen advocates for financial support to help farmers transition to more sustainable practices, reducing their environmental impact while promoting climate resilience.
We do this from a very cultural point of view. Ancient grains, our grandmothers, they grew sorghum and millet, which offered leguminous qualities by fixing nitrogen. And so a lot of these ancient grains are long rooted, so they offer the resilience and create soil health. But it wasn't enough to address it in that way. We had to bring in secured markets for the farmers by showcasing and telling farmers to grow additional crops. You're not going to have that kind of adoption. You've got to create the secured market value. When farmers are asked to grow a certain crop, if you tell them that you will buy their surplus and you give them those contractual agreements where you are also providing the access to markets, that is the hook. And by building that trust, you're able now to bring about further training, more awareness, wildlife conservation, and helping farmers to adopt those practices. And also, it doesn't only end there. We also brought in recipe days where we're helping to bring back the way the crops are prepared and cooked in the communities. Because a lot of the current farmers, they had forgotten or they didn't even know how do they cook sorghum, how do they prepare millet. So we also create recipe days where we are also connecting with farmers to show them how to prepare this food.
Please, can you also talk about the obstacles? I know we did talk a bit about them earlier, but I want us to narrow it down into two areas. The first one, what are some of the obstacles you encounter, with working with these farmers? And then we'll talk about the policy frameworks as well.
Yes, thank you, Jayne. And again, it's all about economics. Very important question. I believe that one of the biggest obstacles that we face in smallholder agriculture is that, as you know, 80% of the world's production is done by smallholder farmers. Yet only a mere 3% of public climate finance goes to food systems. This presents a key avenue to increase this. Through public policy, we can unlock climate transitional finance. And this is becoming more and more important, especially when it comes to the cash crops like coffee and cocoa. Because with the EUDR and the new regulations, science-based initiatives, and the new regulations that our farmers are facing, they have to comply with upgrading their systems to be regeneratively based and science-based. How can they do that without the climate transitional finance? And this is one of the biggest obstacles that our farmers are facing now and will increasingly face. So if we can find a way through public policy and also through climate finance, transitional finance, this is the way we are going to be able to continue to leverage the work that we have done in rural African smallholder production. Otherwise, we face a a huge problem. And you know that, Jayne. And we are here in this podcast to discuss how can we help our farmers.
That's true.
How can we get the message out to say we need help on climate transitional finance? And if we can increase that from the 3% to more, and if this is channeled to our individual farmers, then yes, we can at least address that gap and continue to work at producing regeneratively agricultural-based food.
I know it's not all bad news. I know that you have some impact. You've made a lot of impact. Can you share some of the successes?
Yes, for me, it's very personal. The success is in the day-to-day opportunities of where children in our programs are able to take school lunches by using their boiled cowpeas that their parents have grown in their school lunch to school. Other children in situations where the families with children that are not in our program have gone to school hungry, and the children in our program are able to take school lunch. These are the stories that keep us going in what we do. When we have those individual, heartwarming stories of a child that is able to have school lunch just because they're part of our program, that is what success means to us.
Okay, so how about successes with regards mitigating climate risk?
Successes in mitigating climate risk is, what that means to me is when we know that our program is able to increase biodiversity through beekeeping activities, when we know that more and more farmers are growing leguminous crops, we can actually tactilely see that those farmers are helping to impact the environment with that nitrogen fixing organic green fertilizer method. We feel now confident that the more farmers we put in those programs, we're able to actually make an impact by increasing our footprint. Agroforestry, by helping to have more shaded coffee grown.
Okay.
This is where we are able to actually visibly see more impact. I mean, trees take 3 to 4 years to grow. And so seeing the impact takes time. But the more seedlings we get out there, we know that in time, this will yield results and we keep going.
Let me ask you about the future of Nzatu.
Jayne, we just want to be a conduit. How can we make a social impact with the communities we serve? How can we address science-based targets? How can we bring that education through our training? How can we help to bring more wildlife conservation awareness for our communities so that they can live in harmony with the wildlife that lies adjacent to the communities we serve? What we started off with the one farmer, how can we continue? And this is our goal, is to continue to keep it intimate. It's not just about, you can't, when you're looking at how we're going to scale this, it's one farmer at a time. And continuing to keep that approach in our work is extremely important to us, because if we're not helping one farmer at a time, we're not going to reach the thousands.
And that's all from us at Africa Science Focus today. If you want to find out more, head to the SciDevNet website. That's www.scidev.net. Today's show was produced by Alice Hurst, with editing by Ogechi Ekianyawo and reporting by Jayne Augoye. I'm Ogechi Ekianyawo. Until next time, goodbye. Africa Science Focus is produced by SciDevNet and distributed in association with your local radio station. This podcast was supported by the Science Granting Council's initiative, which aims to strengthen the institutional capacities of 18 public science funding agencies in Sub-Saharan Africa.